Welcome to the KJ&J podcast, your source for all things sports through the lens of faith and family. Thanks for listening.
Today, you'll get to hear from Jaxon Potter. Jaxon is a senior from right here in North Alabama. He's a multi-sport athlete at 7A Austin High School who just recently wrapped up his high school sports career, contributing in big ways on the football field, the basketball court, and the baseball diamond. Though Jaxon has experienced success in multiple sports, he's fallen in love with the game of football. This past season, the 7A All-State wide receiver had 16 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards receiving, helping lead the Austin Black Bears to a playoff appearance and a first-place finish in their region. He recently signed with Murray State and will be enrolling soon to begin his collegiate football journey.
All right, welcome back to the KJ&J podcast. I'm Joel, and this is
KJ.
And we have a guest with us today. Tell him your name. Tell him just a little bit about yourself.
I'm Jaxon Potter. I'm a senior at Austin High School, about to graduate, and I'll be playing football at Murray State.
Head to Murray State. When do you head there?
The 1st of June, so about 14 days from now.
Gotcha. Is your whole family going to go get you settled in? That's cool. That's what's up. Jaxon goes to the same high school that KJ is zoned for. So KJ will be going there. And so we've kind of followed a little bit of your journey just from a distance. Fun to watch. This is selfishly just tell me about Austin's football program.
Out of all the programs I've kind of seen, and I've been friends with some kids that go to other places, Austin has the most family aspect of cool. Togetherness. It may not be the most athletic or the biggest, but it's the togetherness that kind of makes Austin better.
So everyone I've talked to about you has said undeniably that you're an athlete. Tell me a little bit about your involvement in youth sports growing up. For us, youth sports is such an interesting environment. There's many joys in it, and there's sports just in general is awesome, but also there's challenges with it. So what was your experience with it? Just tell me about your involvement in youth sports growing up.
Youth sports, I feel it was awesome. I loved it. Cool. I enjoyed it. I played all three sports growing up. We had some pretty stacked baseball teams. It's crazy. One of our teams, every kid is playing a college sport right now.
That's cool.
So it's wild. But just the city, growing up in Decatur has been pretty great, to support in the community, I would say. It's just fun, with sports.
Tell me some of your favorite memories from playing youth sports growing up.
One memory I have, I played basketball at Decatur Heritage for a year or two, in the youth league. So one week we played a game, and I think I missed the game-winning free throw or something, and we ended up losing. But then the next week we come back, and there was 5 seconds or whatever, and I took the ball full court, got an and one layup, and then won the game. So it was pretty cool moment because the week before I messed it up, and then now I got to win the game for us. So
I feel that's something sports is just helpful to teach you in general. There's highs and lows, right? It's life, and how you respond is more important than the moment. That's something we've been talking with KJ about, just trying to teach him as well. And this last week, he had pitched and didn't pitch great, but he was pretty frustrated. But then later he was tie game 7-7, same game, hit a home run and kind of blew the game open. And so that was hey, that's a moment. It didn't go great. Come back, keep going. It's okay. You're going to have highs and lows. So that's cool. Did you do rec, travel? What was the mix of that and doing multiple sports? 'Cause there's different levels of competition, and then not only even competition, because it's just also commitment level, practice time and how much you're going to go and how much you're going to play. What was that balance like for you guys?
For baseball, because baseball was my sport, my thing growing up. So I played at Flint both T-ball years, and then a year of minor B, the pitching machine. And then after that, it was just straight travel
there's no
ball.
pitching machine now, right?
There's not.
Coach pitch?
Coach pitch.
Coach pitch, which is crazy because if the coach sucks at pitching,
your
team's kind of
you're kind of screwed.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
They used to be pitching machine. Yeah.
No, we used the pitching machine.
Yeah, now it's coach. Was that 7-8 year, 7 year, 7 year, 8
I think so.
And then 8U did travel, or?
Yeah, I did travel from there on until I was 12.
Okay.
And I would say travel, the competition is much better just because that's just how it is with kids who actually want to do it more than the kids who are just doing it in rec league. But the commitment is it's much more, I would say.
That was a lot.
But it's a good thing, I think, for if you don't overdo it. If you overdo it, it becomes too much, and then some kids end up not wanting to play anymore, and It's just too much for yeah.
Well, we kind of wrestled through that some with like, I feel like travel now is, I don't want to say watered down, but I do feel like I think I could say this in my experience, there are some rec teams that would beat some of the travel teams out there now. And my thing is like, man, if we're playing on a team like that, we might as well just play rec. There's no need to pay this bunch of money. Now, again, no knock to it. I love that there's different levels. Like, I don't think it has to be like, I get frustrated with the other side of that, which is like, we have to be a majors level or, we have to be this. And it's like, man, let's just find what's going to challenge us and where should we be competing at? But yeah, it's interesting, the tension there. I think it's a good thing, but I think it can be overdone as well. So you did travel, baseball, and then the other sports, was it more rec league stuff? And when did you start tackle football?
I never played like flag football or anything. Okay. I just started football when I think I did 6 when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
And then I stopped playing for 7 and 8 maybe, and just did baseball all year round. Cool. And then after that, I played football from then on out.
So they had tackle football. I guess that was like just the Decatur City League or whatever.
Yeah, we used to play at like Wilson Morgan Park and
that's cool.
Decatur and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've had, we moved here right during COVID. So there wasn't like all the city stuff had shut down and we weren't really going to do tackle, but there was like one little travel team going. And so we were like, oh, let's just do it because we don't have anything else to do. And then ever since then he's done tackle, but which we didn't do travel baseball till, I guess it was, we did, 10U and 11U.
11U we did, 10, 11U we did travel.
Yeah, last year and this year. So I've noticed he's been behind in some of the hitting just because we're facing pretty good pitching and it's just reps. And yeah, it's a lot just balancing that. Would you say there's any things through like youth sports that you would do differently? Or, I mean, I know you said a largely positive experience. Is there anything you'd say, man, I might do differently looking back on it?
I think I would have not done the missing out on football those 2 years. Because I mean that was more experience. Yeah. But overall, I think it all helped me get to where I am today.
And I'm a big fan of like not specializing too early. And so which is kind of probably what you're saying a little bit. Is if you're too focused on one sport, maybe you miss out on some others. And we'll get into talking about recruiting a little bit. And I'm sure you've heard some of this, but I've heard a lot of college coaches want to see athletes who have been challenged. Their bodies have been, because it's different playing basketball than football or baseball. Different muscles, different learning how your body functions, being coached by different types of coaches and learning how to respond to that. They're not all the same. So tell me a little bit about your transition from youth sports into like school sports. And so going in from that 6th grade year, where it's all, you're kind of picking the team you want to be on largely, or you're picking what rec league you want to play in, to like, hey, here's your coach, here's your teammates, you're zoned for this school, here we go. What was that transition like for you? What were maybe some of the challenges? And I'd also love to hear, I mean, for KJ, we were a year away from that. So he's going into a 6th grade year. So he'll be at the middle school, but won't play middle school sports. So what would you say to kids like that? And what was your experience like?
Try to buy in like as much as you can, because unless something happens and you move, like unless you move states or something, that's going to be your program for the next 6 years, 7 years. So I would say I think I was a little bit more mature than some kids. So like in my head going into 7th grade, and my dad helped me with this too. He like told me before I went into it, like it's the same offense we're going to run throughout like my whole career. Some things may change here and there and some positions may change, but if you know every position, then you're ready for whatever. So,
well, that's what we've kind of taken, he's played a fair amount of quarterback and I didn't put him in that position the first couple of years. And then I did coach him couple years, and I've kind of told him, man, just play it and you'll know every position. That's the benefit. So like if you decide, it'd be harder to come into that position later than to pivot to like a slot receiver, or, I know body type's going to determine some of that. There's a lot of genetic factors that are out of your control. So it's like, hey, you can always pivot at some point, but just being an athlete that like, if you're coachable and you're an athlete, there's a spot for you somewhere, you know what I mean, on the field. So do you have any like questions, or what are your thoughts or like fears, like when you think about that, looking ahead to next year? Like,
I think I'm good on that, but I do have one question that's like out of this. But
okay, that's cool.
I just want to know what position you play in baseball
this year or growing up,
or both.
Or both.
Growing up, I was like shortstop. That was my position. I didn't really play much outfield. I pitched a little bit. I think I played catcher like one game, like just because somebody got hurt or something. But yeah, shortstop. And then this past year, I played left field like all year. So I played some center when the kid pitched, but just left field mainly.
How was this year? Because how many years of break did you take from baseball?
7.
7 years. So you were hitting the ball, right? I mean, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It all kind of like naturally came back. I mean, it wasn't like the best, and my swing wasn't perfect, but I did it to basically have fun. And my uncle was the coach. It's my last year at home, so I wanted to spend some time with them, have some family time. So, but yeah, it was a very fun season. We didn't do the best, but we had a bunch of fun.
And you're building Austin, just to be frank, it's like their baseball program. It's not like their basketball program, football program. It seems like, at least in my experience in the recent years, a lot of culture built, and you're kind of building that more and having to establish it, which I think is cool, because I'm sure your uncle having you there to help build some of those cultural things beyond just, the game and the performance. It's like, man, there's working hard, trust in the process, all things like we'll probably get into here in a little bit ourselves. But so no fears, you're good, you're ready. I'm just messing.
I'm good.
Yeah, I think you've been around enough. We're hoping maybe he gets to even be a manager, be around some of it.
I did that my 6th grade year.
Cool. Well, that's what we're talking about with him. I didn't even know that. So what was that? Well, let's just jump to reclass in a little bit. So you said you did 6th grade twice. What was y'all's motivation in that? Was it purely sports, or was it other things? Because when's your birthday?
November 2nd.
All right, so I know this is like a hot topic. Everybody's got different opinions on reclass. I think there's good reasons to do it, probably not so good reasons to do it. But he's at April, so he was really late. And it was like, man, we had moved during COVID. It was like, man, it's an easy time to do it. It wasn't just sports, but from a maturity perspective, there's a lot of studies say like boys in general should probably all be reclassed. But I know there's a lot of factors that come into play. I've done some of the studies on it, and it's harder for lower economic families to do that if you do it early, because you can't keep your kid home from kindergarten. You need them to go because you're kind of dependent on that, because you can't maybe afford childcare or daycare. Maybe you've got a single parent home and so they don't have somebody to stay at home. But you did 6th grade twice. Was it awkward at all? What were the challenges with that, and what was y'all's thought process in it?
It was pretty weird, honestly.
Yeah, I could see that.
But the reason behind it was for maturity, and sports had a little bit to do with it. A lot of people would say that I did it because I didn't think I was going to play on the sports team the next year. But then I was like, bro, that's not the reason. But if you want to believe that, you can believe that. But the studies do say that most guys grow freshman year of college. That's one of the growth spurts. And so
guys are still growing until they're 18, 19. Youth sports, other than I feel like baseball, there's great exceptions and some of the TVBA stuff, but predominantly youth sports is purely age-based anyways. Mm-hmm. So this is the way I looked at it, or I look at it even now. All the kids he's played with are a grade older than him, and he's been competitive in there. It's not like
that's how I did.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
I grew up playing up. So.
Yeah, and so it's not like you couldn't go play. It's just saying, for us, it's the long-term development. It's not about, having my kid go dominate 3rd grade when he's in 5th grade. It should be in 5th grade and me feeling good about something. It's no, actually at that age, we're playing up, or he's always been one of the younger based on the cutoffs, the age cutoffs. And so baseball is the first thing we've done that he gets to play with his grade. And that's just been, last year was the first year we did that. So we're looking long term. I was like, man, I don't want him to graduate having just turned 18.
My worst thing when people say I failed.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I didn't.
Yeah, I got that a lot, but I've never made below a B in my life. So
yeah.
Well, and I've told him this too. When you get to a certain point, no one's going to care. I'm sure when you did it at first, it was probably harder than over time. That probably wasn't even the first thought on people's mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. At first, it was everybody was talking about it, and it was weird because all my friends I grew up with, but the year later they all moved to Hartsville anyways. So
yeah. Well, and it worked out. And again, I say this with him all the time. I'm not naive. There's going to be genetic factors. There's certain hurdles that some of us might have, and you just overcome them. Having that extra year to figure out what you want to do, where you want to land. If you were going off of say your junior year stats or your junior year, where you were at to play at the next level, my guess is that's a much different picture. Am I wrong in that?
No,
yeah. So having that year to go do it, because here's the thing, by that point, I feel like most athletes kind of know how long maybe not how long I want to play, but what level I want to go. I want to get everything. That's all going to shake itself out from 8th through 12th grade. And so the reclass thing just gives us, I feel like, a little more time to figure that out and develop, like you said. So, all right, so let's talk. At some point in your journey, you began to prioritize football. So I know you said growing up, baseball was important. So tell me like how you made that decision, like when was that and how you made that decision?
Honestly, me and my family sat down one night and we just talked about what was the most fun.
Yeah.
And like out of the 3 sports I played, what were the 2 or 1, if I just wanted to do one, what was the one that was the most fun and brought the most like joy and like life to our family.
Yeah,
so cool. And to me, it wasn't just all about me. Like baseball took a lot of time from my like family and closer friends. I mean, a lot of my friends were on the baseball team, but like friends outside of sports, it just took a lot of time. And ultimately, football and basketball were the 2 most fun to me. So.
Yeah, and he's kind of had you've kind of gone back and forth. He would say right now, your sport is the one you're playing.
Yeah, so like right now, baseball's my favorite. Next year.
Yeah, that's exactly how I was.
But he's probably had seasons where I feel like baseball more than any other, he's had harder times with. And I think, though, it was because of like the team dynamic or maybe his success or not at it versus the actual sport. Because we wrestled with not playing baseball this year. And we had a good opportunity to play with some people he knew and a coach he liked. And so it was like, hey, forget the nerves of like batting and failing. Think about when you rope a double or you strike somebody out or throw somebody out at second. And he started smiling real big. And so I'm glad he did it because I don't want him to pick too early. What year was that for you? Like,
I think it was 5th grade year, maybe 6th grade.
So kind of pulling out of travel baseball and then you primarily did basketball and football from there? All right. So I'm kind of pushing, encouraging him to consider trying out for all 3 first year of middle school and see how that goes. But I'm like, we'll see, because I don't think school baseball will actually require near as much as travel baseball. I've said that, literally had that conversation with my wife a couple nights ago, was out of all the sports in youth sports, travel baseball requires the most of the family, like the entire parents, siblings getting dragged to the games.
Yeah, you're going for like 2 days. You have to get all the stuff, hotels, and like basketball and football. You're going there and going back. It's not 2-day things.
Yeah, my
so much harder.
Youngest sister, or the one in your grade, Logan, she was born, and 2 days later we were at the ball field. It's crazy.
So it's crazy. It's just so much. And it's like, and again, there's beautiful things about it. And I wrestle, I'm a pastor, so I'm preaching most Sundays, not all of them, but it'll, sometimes we're sending hymns, sometimes we're not. We try to balance it and, trying to figure out how many, if it was up to me, I'd do a lot of 1 days, but a lot of teams want to do 2 days. And I know there's pros and cons because you're, playing 4 or 5 games in 1 day is a lot, especially like catcher, like he catches a lot. So I think
we've had like one day tournament.
I think we've had two and then we had one that it was going to rain on Sunday, so they made it a 1 day. So but we've had more 2 days this year than normal, which I haven't loved. But, but what have been the pros and cons of like being a multi-sport athlete, especially at a bigger school, right? So 7A high school, biggest class in Alabama. The smaller schools kind of plan around that. They need their athletes in all 3 sports. And so the football coach is more sympathetic to letting baseball wrap up or whatever. Bigger school, it's like, man, we've got the athletes and we've got to kind of get going because you might be going deep in football playoffs and basketball's already started, or probably, basketball and baseball as well. How have you navigated that? How have coaches been, and how have you navigated if coaches didn't understand? What's that been like?
I'll take my 11th grade year as an example. Okay. So we went to the playoffs, first round of the playoffs, and basketball season was starting. So I think I missed like the first few games of basketball, but I mean, I love basketball and it was the best time. It was fun, but football was is my main sport. So I was okay with that, missing a few basketball games, but the coaches side of it, like, they're the best. They're very understanding. Coach Phillips, the basketball coach, he understood. I came into practice right after football season ended and got to work.
Like if you're secure in what you want to do, it's like, could I maybe play a bigger role in this basketball team if I wasn't missing here and there and figuring out my role in the rotation? But if you're like, man, my identity isn't in if I start or not, or if I'm off the bench or whatever, or what, maybe it takes me 3 weeks to get my shot figured out. So I'm going to grind on defense and make sure like I'm doing what I need to do when I'm out there. And that's what we've kind of encouraged him, because it's like every year, it's like if a kid's been playing baseball all year, it's going to take him a few games, few tournaments to get into it. And I'm like, man, you just got to be secure in who you are. If a parent or another kid judges your value or whatever based on, your batting average, that's really on them, not on you. Like, so I think that's cool. And I do think most coaches largely really are okay with that. Like they value the athletes and stuff. So that's always encouraging. So yeah, football, let's talk that for a minute. A lot of success this last year, over 1,000 yards receiving, which is really cool. It was 16 touchdowns, I think. And I know like Austin isn't even, more than I do probably, but it's not like they're a pass first, like they're out there just slinging it, right? They're going to set the tone with the run, and they're willing, it seems like, to spread it out a little bit or whatever, but it's not like you're sitting there in an offense that's just like,
yeah, it's not
geared towards stats.
It's not like an air raid offense or anything.
Yeah. So. Exactly. But what are some things you would say like you credit for the success this senior year of football?
First, I thank God, like my Lord and Savior. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without him. He blessed me with the abilities that I have. So first off that. And then my coaches, it's a lot of planning going into the week. We do a lot of film, a lot of like the weight room, all that. So I think of coaches because they put me in the right spot, and I just had to do what I had to do to make the plays. My family supported me in everything that I did, and that's something I'm always thankful for. And my teammates, obviously the O-line and the quarterback, I wouldn't be able to get the ball without them. J.L. Davis, he was our quarterback. He's really smart, good arm. Yeah, he's a good athlete too. So
I love how you gave everybody else credit, because that's 100% true. Now tell me though, what, like, to get ready for the senior season, what kind of work was that putting in? What kind of goals did you have? Things like that.
So my offensive coordinator, Coach Senior, he texts me like goals one day, and I think it said like 12 touchdowns, 1,000 yards receiving. That's what I wanted. And obviously I ended up getting it, like you said, but it was just hours of hard work that nobody saw. Yeah. So going up to the field on Sunday afternoons after church, if I didn't have anything going on, me and my buddy would go up there and do some work. And then I may do some stuff at home. Yeah. And one thing people look past is stretching, like mobility. Like you got to stretch, do mobility, because that's what's going to make you faster and more capable to do other things. But yeah, hard work and focus also.
I love it. And I think that's what buying into the process, not that you're always going to love it, but you know that in the end, like, it's part of it. And it's not just sports, right? It's life. And that's something that I think KJ's maturing and growing in, is recognizing that there's, it's like, and I told him, you can be honest. I'm like, hey, do you want to go hit for 20 minutes? And if he's like, no, I don't feel like it, but I know I need to, so let's go. It's like, it's cool. Like, I don't always feel like it either, and you hope that as you grow and mature, you can kind of hold yourself accountable versus having to have parents or even coaches. We all need people like each other. Like he always says, and I would assume you're the same way. If you're going to go work out or go do something, having a buddy goes a long way. It
makes it much better.
Yes.
It makes it much
You're
better.
pushing each other, you're enjoying it, you're talking. And so I've tried to grow even as a parent too, like, hey, let's call one of your friends and go to the baseball field and hit off the machine or whatever. And we're going to bring your buddy and we'll, go grab something to eat afterwards. Like let's enjoy that. It doesn't have to all be, yes, it takes hard work, but you can make that work more fun. Just like having a buddy to go to the gym and work out regularly, you're going to enjoy it more. So let's talk this is something KJ, I think, struggles with a little bit, getting nervous before games or big moments. What's that been like for you? Have you always been, I think some people are more naturally calm, but then has that been a struggle for you thinking about the moment? And
I used to overthink everything. That was just how I did stuff. I overthought it, and then that would lead to me messing up. Talked to my dad one day, and he told me, you just got to stop overthinking. Your instincts are too good. So I love the nerves. Like, I love getting nervous. That's why, honestly, that's one of the reasons I stopped playing baseball, because it didn't give me like the nerve feeling anymore. But basketball and football still did. But still, like, every time I was about to go out of the tunnel for a Friday night game, the nerves would go crazy. And it was like, until the first snap. And then after the first snap, everything was just calm.
Yeah, mine's like the opposite. It's like baseball gets me real nervous, and then the other two, I'm like, fine.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say you're fine. You still get nervous, but yes.
Less than baseball.
I think because you have more time to think about it. Like at this age, and he is playing pretty competitively, so it's like you have more time to sit in the dugout and be like, oh, am I going to strike out or whatever? And I think too, some of it, nerves are just, and we've talked about this, like they're a physical response to something you care about, something that matters. It's not like I think so many times we hear phrases like, oh, they got ice in their veins or they got this. And you talk to most athletes, they're like, man, like you just learn how to like own it and acknowledge that it's there and then still go do what you do. Like, it's not like there's not many people. I think they're out there. Like Anthony Edwards seems like he plays, but he also plays careless sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it seems like the personalities that are carefree also do crazy things. Sometimes you're like, what in the world? And so I think especially for younger athletes, KJ, I feel like has been this way at a younger age, would get nervous because he recognized the bigness of the moment. And some kids are just kind of like, I don't know, I'm out here. And I'm like, you don't understand, this is a big at bat or this is a big whatever. So athletes that are pretty aware can have a tendency to maybe get more nervous, but also learning, like you said, hey, like, man, that means I care. Let's go. Like, and I've told him, turn the nerves into like, actually, Bo Nick said this at a camp we were at. He said, he won't allow himself to say he gets nervous. He says, I'm anxious. He says, I'm anxious to start. And I think that's largely true because it's like, man, I don't know how this game's going to turn out. I'm kind of ready to get it going. Let's turn that into like, I'm almost anxiously excited, not sitting here like, oh my gosh, I don't want to mess up, which is something he still struggles with. I think the fear of failure. It's like, man, you just got to go. Like, you're going to fail. Let's just call it what it is. The other team's trying to beat you. Like, it's not like they're out there laying down. They want to beat you. They want to stop you. And sometimes they will, but then you come right back at them, And so learning how to embrace that instead of fading from it, Let's talk like adversity. What are some times, maybe middle school, high school, whatever, where you had to deal with some adversity, and like, what did you learn through that? How did you deal with that?
So my 10th grade year wasn't the best year for me. So I went through freshman season, like playing with our freshman team for football. And then 10th grade year, we had a really good team. Like, we went to the playoffs. We ended up losing the first round, but we went to the playoffs. But the whole season, it was just kind of rough for me because I think I got the ball, like, no joke, like 10 times the whole year. And I'm not a guy to like be all selfish about it and stuff, but I mean, I want the ball. Yeah.
Well, and you still want to be involved, right? You don't want to just be sitting there.
Yeah. So that was rough because freshman season, I got pulled up to varsity after our season. And I started the first game I was there because one of our guys got hurt. So I started and I ended up scoring. So I like going into sophomore season, I had hype going into it. This guy, like, I don't know if y'all seen, his name was like Unlock Your Game.
Yeah.
Stuff. He posted me on him, was like shouting me out and stuff. So I had all this hype going into it. And then it just wasn't the best. I mean, I had fun and we had a really good year. We won a lot of games, but that was just rough.
Yeah.
But being able to bounce back, 11th grade year. It meant a lot to me. So
yeah, and just trusting it and putting in like, because I think sometimes he can come in like if he's had some success with some, like, you hit those highs and you kind of have these expectations, and then like, how are you going to respond when you fail? Like, so this last weekend he had hit a big home run, and we kind of went and played at
I saw that on Instagram.
We kind of played at like a little lower level tournament, honestly, to help with some of his just self-confidence or whatever. And it worked out well. So he had hit a home run to win. It was 4-1. It was last inning, 2 guys on, hit a home run to tie it, ended up winning 5-4. We're like on a high. He's going to go start pitching. We're with kind of like picking up with the team, so they don't know him, but they're like on a high because he just hit a home run, and then he goes and pitches miserably, just to be frank. And KJ's not like, it's not like pitching is his main thing, but the thing he can normally do is hit the zone. Like, I'm going to pound the zone. And it was wet. It was a miserable, but walking a lot of guys. And he just kind of broke down afterwards, and we've been talking about mental toughness and stuff. But I think having the high and then expecting I'm going to come in, I'm going to hit the zone, I'm going to keep this going, and then it's like, how do we deal with that? Whether it's in the course of one game or, like you said, sometimes we have whole seasons where it's like that. And am I going to respond and just kind of fade away, or like, hey, let's just work harder and keep going? So
I would say one thing to add to that is like my brother told me this, stay committed to the grind without being like addicted to the results, if that makes sense. Yeah. So like you're not just working for something just to get results, because when the results don't come back how you want them, you're going to be all in your head. That's why you see like NFL athletes, they'll get drafted and then that's all they work towards their whole life.
Right.
And then their life just like plateaus and they have all this mental issues and stuff. So I would just say work hard in everything you do, not committed or not addicted to the results, but committed to the grind.
Because and results don't come overnight anyways. And it's like, and really as a Christian, I don't think the end goal is just being successful at sports anyways. And so if that's the end goal and I finally do achieve it, like you said, man, well, okay, I got what I wanted in life. Well, is that really what life is about? It can be a beautiful thing, and having goals can be awesome. We can learn a ton through sports. But yeah, I completely agree. I think that's good. It's like we've used the phrase of like process or progress over perfection, and like trust the process and like just commit to it. Like it's not even, and I'm not throwing my wife under the bus, but she was like, oh, we're spending money on this hitting lesson. And it's like, well, it's probably going to take a month till you see at least, because we're changing mechanics. Sometimes you get worse before you get better. And if you're just like, I need immediate results, and you're just living for the immediate, man, you will quit so quick.
Yeah, it's going to be a long journey.
Yep. That's a good word. So let's talk recruiting. I mean, this is something we haven't even really we probably wouldn't even consider till we get much older. But I think there's a lot of people out there, whether middle school, high school, like landscape of recruiting. I do feel like it's shifting a lot constantly. Ninth what was your experience like? Pros, cons, how did that go? And what grade did you start to take that seriously?
So ninth grade, I went to my first camp, and it was kind of a thing where we were just getting into it. So we were just trying to figure out stuff. So my dad was like, what's your dream school? Yeah. So I think we went to Clemson University, because I love that place. It's awesome. But we went there and I had a blast. I got to talk to the coaches and all the players and stuff. And then after that, we just I think the next year we started going to more local camps, because my coach told me you need to go, because I've had some coaches ask me about you and stuff like that. But recruiting is very up and down. It's weird. You might have coaches talk to you a lot, and then you'll have coaches that'll barely text you or DM you on Twitter. And there's different seasons where they can text you. It's there's an open period and there's a dead period where you can't be texted. And then you can only be recruited when you get to a certain age. So it's weird being a younger guy and being like, why am I not getting looked at? Yeah. Well, it's because the 11th to 12th graders are being seen more. Yep. And then the portal hasn't helped high school kids at all. Right. So, but I loved it. I love going to camps. I will say some advice when you go to camps for the younger guys. Respect the coaches. Eye contact is a big thing. And then eye contact.
About eye contact.
Yeah, eye contact.
I'm not the best at it either, but
yeah, I wasn't either until somebody told me. Yeah. So eye contact, and then just doing what they ask of you. Yeah. They ask different stuff at different colleges, so you have to adjust to their rules. So just being able to adapt and being coachable. Yeah. So, but overall, it was a good experience, a good learning experience too.
What would you say, for kids, maybe that 9th, 10th grade year? How were you both able to kind of dream big but stay realistic, and what camps are worth the money? And I mean, what's that? How have you made those decisions? I'm obviously probably with family and coaches' involvement mainly. Also,
like I said, my godbrother, he went to Auburn and played, which he went to a camp and ran a crazy 40 time for a linebacker and got an offer and committed on the spot.
That's wild.
So We talked to him about some of his recruiting process, and it was cool because my dad took him to a bunch of his visits and his camps, so he got to see kind of what that's about. Mm-hmm. But for me, I mean, I'm very confident. Like, I feel like confidence is one of the biggest things when it comes to sports. But being real with yourself, like, I'm not the biggest dude. I'm not the fastest. Yeah. I mean, I got good ball skills. I can run routes, but probably not right now. I'm not going to play at an SEC school. Yeah. And there's the portal that may happen. Right. But as of right now, I'm going to go to like local, like Samford was a big one, mm-hmm. Austin P, UAB, stuff like that.
Well, I've heard a lot of coaches say, like, if you're not careful and you go to the big ones too soon without knowing what the experience is like, what the expectations are, you can almost hurt yourself because you're kind of like, it's too big. The moment's almost too big. Whereas if you've been to some of these other camps and schools, it's like, I mean, I've been here, I've seen it. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit bigger, but it's the same concept. I've practiced eye contact. I've practiced listening to the instructions while I've got guys chattering around me and not paying attention or figuring out your spot and what you're supposed to be doing. Like, so I think that's cool. We're quite a ways from that. We did like a little QB country camp thing, but it's more like it's not really as big on recruiting. It's more just like training and development and stuff. But I still love the experience because you're there with 100 something quarterbacks, good high level coaches, guys that have played college, football at high levels, some of them in the NFL now. So you're not like sitting there in these bright lights, like, oh my gosh, like you've kind of like, I've seen, like I was even telling him, we were talking like, you get to a point where if you've been around some of those guys enough, you don't feel like this kind of off factor. You're just like, yeah, it's just another guy who's worked at it and he's made it, and that's awesome. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. It's still like, it's cool when you get to interact with them, but you're not sitting there like a weird kind of awe thing where you're so nervous you can't even just go play, like, or go perform at a camp or whatever. So.
Literally, we had this one camp. It was like basically a daycare. It was like,
we won't say the name. It was a localish college, and it was like
dodgeball.
Because there's not many camps.
It's supposed to be like a football camp, and we literally played like dodgeball, watched movies, and went outside and did these random drills.
I was annoyed. So it was like, I don't see many. I've looked for like 7th and 8th graders. There's hardly any camps out there. You have some like 1st through 6th grade, which is what this was. It promised development. It was like a 3-day thing. So I'm like, all right, cool. We go. And it's like, they're rotating. They had them doing lineman drills. I'm like, what do we, and I get for like maybe 1st, 2nd, 3rd graders, like, yeah, but like, I didn't like that all the advertisement for it was development. Just say it's a glorified summer daycare. Like, they were playing Frisbee, like, and where I'm like, man, I didn't pay, and it wasn't stupid ridiculous, but I'm like, I didn't drive. It was about an hour away. I think I didn't drive to come do this. So I think that's where I'll even have some older elementary kids ask me, like parents, like 4th, 5th, 6th graders, like, hey, what camps are out there? And I'm like, man, you just be careful, because at that age, I'm not saying it's a money grab. I'm fine they do it. I think it's cool to let 1st, 2nd, 3rd graders get out there with the players and get on the turf or whatever. That's an awesome experience. But just check. Like, we were talking about going to the Alabama camp, and in the past I've heard for kids it was more development. But I emailed them and was like, hey, what is it? And they said, since Coach DeBoer's there, it's like they don't get to pick their position and stay in their areas. They're rotating them to all positions. So it's like, if you're a lineman wanting to get lineman work and you're over there throwing a football in a quarterback line, or you're a receiver and you want to run routes and now you're getting moved around to do lineman drills, like, it's cool. Just be honest about that in your packet, because I don't want to pay money and go to stay overnight to go do that, But which I think when you get old, obviously when you get to 9th grade, they're all geared towards actual like serious development, or I feel like they should be, hopefully. But we already talked a little bit about reclassing, so I won't really go into that again. But so going to college football, like, man, I know you said confidence is a strong point, so maybe there's not a ton of fears and doubts, but what are like things going into it that you're like, man, when I really think about it, like going into this year, what are things you're just like, are there any fears or doubts, or are you kind of like, let's just go get it?
I don't think there's any necessarily fears, or I don't really like to have doubts on myself, because I feel like that just puts me in a hole. But there's obviously some spots that I'm going to have to get better at, and stronger is one of those things. Faster, obviously. I mean, it doesn't hurt to be able to jump higher or run faster. So, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be very fun. It's something I've dreamed of for a long time, so I'm really excited for it.
That's cool. And I'm sure we'll have to get you back in here after a year or two of it and talk about the student athlete journey, which I know somewhat, I've heard that from even, I talked a little bit about to your coach senior just in preparation for this. You're talking about academics, like talk a little bit about how that's important both in high school, but then also, going to the next level. You are a student athlete. What's your approach to that? And what would you say to younger guys kind of coming up into that?
I would say, pay attention in class as much as you can. Take it serious, because I'm a believer. I have a thing my dad always says is, how you do anything is how you do everything. Yeah. So I feel like if you take the classroom for granted and goof off in there, you're not going to take. Some kids are just naturally gifted and they're just freak athletes and they don't care about the classroom, but it's going to eventually blend in and you'll be able to tell, like, this dude doesn't pay any attention in the classroom, we're not recruiting him. Yeah. Like, if they see a DF on your report card, you're not getting recruited. So, yeah.
And most likely, it's probably not always true, but it's probably most of the time true. It's the same guys struggling doing film study and learning the playbook and being able to put effort into that. And I know there's different, like, learning styles, and I learn differently than a lot of people, I feel like. But still, it's like, learning that discipline to be willing to put in the work. And again, for 99.9% of people, like, sports, like actually playing sports, the percentage of people that's going to be their lifelong career. And even then, like, if you played a 40, you're the exception, not the rule. So you still got a lot of life left. And what do you have? Do you have business skills to fall back on or other things to do? And obviously there's a lot of jobs in sports besides just playing, but all that stuff's it's not going to hurt you. Like you said, it's going to be good for you. So what are your goals for this season? And I know there's probably a lot of still unknowns till you're like there and fully involved. So it's fine if they're not like super specific. If they are, that's fine too. But do you have any goals like going into this?
I would just say get down there and I guess I don't really have to prove to the coaches that I'm good because, they recruited me and offered me and stuff. But I would just say prove that I'm good enough to play at that level with the guys that they're playing against. Mm-hmm. So I would love the opportunity to play this year. But, also I'm realistic. And there's a bunch of seniors and pretty good receivers at Murray right now that we just got transferred in. So, I'm realistic with myself. But a goal would be to, play, obviously. Yeah. So.
Yeah. How does setting those goals help you on the path, like doing the little things, right? Because you don't just reach those goals. Like it's a lot of little things that build up. How does having those goals help you when you don't feel like going to the weight room that day or whatever?
I just feel like really the realization hits you. Mm-hmm. Like if you think about it, say you wake up, you don't feel like going to work out. Well, then you're going to think about it for a minute and thinking about how in about 2 weeks I'm going to be down there with some grown men working out. Yeah. So I don't want to go in there looking like a stick. Yeah. So I just think it's like being real with yourself.
Yeah. And it's having that long range goal in mind. So it helps you in the day to day. And I think that's a lot of what just like, you don't get there by accident. Now I'm 100% like, man, I believe God is sovereign and he's working and he's involved and all glory to him 100%. And then he also uses he invites us into that journey and says like, man, here's some natural gifts I've given you. And then don't go bury that talent, like to use Jesus's parable, continue to use it ultimately for his kingdom, but in that vein, whether it's sports or if you're a writer, there's a million different, you're an engineer, it doesn't matter. It's all to be used for his glory, his kingdom. And so some things that I've heard just from others in this, that I ask about coaches or your dad, some things, one of the things that keeps coming up is coachability. How do you define that? Because we hear that a lot. How would you define that? And then is that something that just has come natural for you? And when are maybe times you've been challenged where this is a coach that's hard to be coachable to? Well, how have you dealt with that?
It's something I've kind of been raised in. Yeah. My parents have done a great job with teaching me how to be respectful and how to listen and apply what is taught to me. And for a while, I kind of thought I was good enough. Yeah. Probably 7th or 8th grade, I was pretty good at football or whatever. And then 9th grade, kids started getting better. Yeah. So I was I got to lock in for real. And so coachability is just like being able to take what your coaches are telling you and apply that as quickly as possible, because you may not have all the time that you think you have. And it's one of the most important things because, like I said earlier, you're playing for a program in high school and in college. Yeah. You're not playing for a rec team. It's not like you'll be on a different team next year. Right. You're going to be with the same guys, the same coaches, and they're going to keep track of who's coachable and who's not coachable. And with the coaches at Austin, I know that's one of their biggest things. Yeah. So just as a little hint, if you're going to Austin, be coachable, because that's the main thing.
Yeah, and I don't think many coaches are going to put up with, like, especially unless you are so freakishly athletic and good that there's no one behind you, but especially at a bigger school, it's like, man, I think most coaches would take a kid that's like 100% coachable and maybe an 8 out of 10 on talent over a 10 out of 10 kid on talent, but is just constantly hurting the culture of the team or isn't being coachable, like isn't listening, because that will come to play. Like I've coached kids where it's like a big thing in youth sports, like youth football, is don't block in the back. I love that you're aggressive. Just stop. Well, I remember a kid a couple years ago, he was struggling, and it took it happening where we had like an 80-yard touchdown call back, and it was a clear block in the back. And I just look at him and he knew it, and I appreciated it. Like he grew, I think, in coachability in that moment, because he realized, I'm not just telling you that. I like you being aggressive. I'm telling you, you're not allowed to block them in the back. Like it's just not, it's illegal. So don't do it. And so it was like one of those moments, I think, for him that hopefully, he's an athlete that'll be at Austin and, a very athletic kid. And I'm like, I hope that was a moment that hopefully he'll learn from, and grow. So how did you handle maybe any disagreements with coaches? I love what you're saying about buying the program, because that forces you to like, man, I got to work through this, which is a good life skill to have too, right? Like it's not just about playing sports, but the life skill aspect of, man, I'm at a job with somebody and I can't just be like, well, screw you. Like I'm going to, elsewhere. Like which a lot of youth sports is like, well, I'm going to the next coach down the road. And again, I'm not saying there's not certain environments where it's time like, man, maybe this is really bad. We might need to go. But largely at a school, that's a much bigger decision. How have you worked, or have you had many issues, or even, you don't have to say names, but coaches maybe like, man, I disagree with this, don't love this. How have you dealt with that?
Ultimately, I had to come to myself and be like, even if I did have some agreements with some coaches or thought I should be getting the ball more than I should, I had to think also, like what I've been talking about, the program, for the better of the program, and the coaches wouldn't be there if they didn't want to. Yeah. If they didn't want you to get better. Like they don't just tell you stuff just because. Yeah.
And high school coaches aren't just being paid like crazy. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're there because they care, at least to a certain extent, about developing kids and programming. Obviously they're not going to lose on purpose. So there's a reason they're making the decisions they are, even if you disagree with them. And that's part of what I've told, I've told him, even like he, maybe you're playing a position in baseball, it's not your favorite, but it's like on this team, that's a really important role for you. And so seeing that big picture, is important. So work ethic, like how we talked a little bit about this, I guess, but like, I think you've already kind of addressed like, hey, I don't feel like putting in the work, but you see the big picture, things like that. But how do you balance that with also like letting your body rest and even playing multiple sports, going from thing to thing? What's that balance like for you and rhythms?
Creating a plan or trying something out to figure out what your body can tolerate. So maybe you go to the field Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but then Tuesday and Thursday, you just work out, or maybe you just do like stretch and do some yoga. Dude, yoga is amazing. Or like one of our basketball coaches does it with us, and it's like the best thing ever. So you have to try.
I've heard that.
Like 20-minute, 15-minute sessions.
That'd be good for me.
Awesome. But yeah, just like creating a plan that is good for you and your body, not to lean on the lazy side and not to lean on the overdoing it side, but just somewhere a good mix in the middle.
Because a word I use a lot is like sustainable. Like, let's just be honest. Like, because I can go make this plan. I'm going to work out 2 hours a day and I'm going to this and that. And it's like, man, I'm just going to get discouraged if I'm like, let's get something sustainable, but also challenging. Like it shouldn't just be like, okay, well, I'm going to, shoot basketball 5 minutes a day. Well, man, a little bit every day can help, but like that might need to be 20, 30 minutes. And as you get older, it's going to be more. And I have told, I didn't have this in the notes, but curious, did it get easier or harder when you got to middle school and high school and you kind of had, well, I'll just tell you, I feel like it could get easier when you have the structure of a program and you've got even time during the day allotted to practice that instead of like a random P, whereas youth sports is like elementary don't care what you're doing from 3 to 9 at night. They're like, here's your homework. We see you. So did that get easier kind of settling into a program?
Mm-hmm. For sure. 100%.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, it'll help you a lot.
Yeah, because we're at that, like, and especially I feel like when you're young, you're playing rec, you're not taking that serious. You're not, maybe practicing a little bit, but it's like this tension of like you're getting ready for that next level, but you're not there yet. So you're trying to challenge yourself. You're trying to be a good teammate and go to team practices. And then you got sports that overlap. And then you're also trying to do your own development because it's like, well, I need to get better at these two things. So I also need to put in work there. So we're kind of looking forward to that next year and doing that. So, yeah, a lot of this we talked about already, which is great. One of the things Coach Senior said about you is that you would listen to details to help your team and doing the little things right and trust in that. And I think that's great because I think a lot of, and you mentioned this, a lot of especially younger athletes are focused on their results. So did I score the touchdown? Did I do this versus like, am I doing the little thing? Like, did I get the block? Did I control what I could control? Like that for baseball, I've been telling him, like, you're going to fail at the plate, but did you give him the best version of you? Well, what was your at bat like? Because you could get a hit and have a bad approach and a bad at bat, and you could strike out. He struck out in a game the tournament a couple weekends ago, and I said, man, I thought it was a great at bat. You barely missed one foul down the line, so you got down in the count, and then you fouled one off. You were just a little late, and then he threw a great like strike 3 curveball that came in the zone, and you swung and were just slightly ahead of it, but you didn't just sit and take. Like, be okay with that. So how has that been for you, just paying attention to little things, and what would you say to other like athletes coming behind you?
For me, being in the faith and being grown up in church, the Bible talks about how take care of the little things and then the big things will be added later on. So that's one thing that kind of stuck out to me because I could apply it to football and sports. Like when I didn't necessarily understand the Christianity stuff and the faith, like at a younger age, I could apply that to sports, which now I can, I'll read my Bible every morning and journal and stuff, but being able to apply that to sports, so the details add up to scoring a touchdown. Like if you do few cone drills, and then people don't see that, but then they see the touchdowns on Friday nights. It's like the 10,000 hour theory, like the 10,000 hours of something, you be technically a master at it. So just, I would say the small things are the most important.
Yeah, I think he's been blessed to see some results. Like he going into this last year of football, it was the first year he really kind of put some off-season work in, specifically at quarterback, and had a good year. We had some good receivers, a line that would give him time, which is in youth sports hard to find. But like he was able to see some success, which I was grateful for, because it doesn't always work out that way. It will in the long run, and that's where, like you said, like our faith comes into play. It's like Jesus said, be faithful in little, and then you'll be faithful in much as well when you have that. And so, which is kind of the next thing to kind of think through is like, as a follower of Jesus, like for me, a big comfort, even as an adult, is trusting God's plan, right? And so as a kid and as a younger person, you kind of see that through things like maybe sports and school and friendships and relationships. And then as you get older, it might be like job and how are you paying the bills and, all these other, parenting is hard. I'm like, half time, I'm like, man, God, you're gonna have to fix my problems. My kids might be in therapy someday for, I just did this or that, whatever. But it's like, I'm trusting him. And how has your faith like kind of sustained you both in life and in sports?
It's just the fact that God blessed me with the abilities and things in life that not everybody has. And that's not a knock on anybody else. God has his plan for everyone. My life verse, I think I kind of go by is 1 Corinthians 10:31. And it's whatever you do, do all for the glory of God. And that's just something I've always went by. I go by HGA, his glory always. And God kind of like spoke to my dad one day. I was 2 years old. And my parents have been like, they went to church kind of when they were younger, but they weren't raised in the church, if that makes sense. And that's nothing against my grandparents. They're great people. I love them. But my dad ended up going to church when I was 2 years old, and he bought in, and I really appreciate him for that. But him being, my dad being able to lead me up in Christ really helped me, and God has played a major role in my life, and I thank him for everything that I've been blessed with. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that kind of leads a little bit into talking to you about, just parental support. Obviously, this is something me and my son are doing together. And I talk with him a lot, especially as he's getting older. I'm able to have more mature conversations with him because I know I'll make mistakes. And I think he'll tell you I'm the first to normally be like, I was over the top there. Or, yes, I do want to hold you accountable in these things, but also like, I want to make sure I'm not just living my dreams through you, and trying to make you be something that, obviously I love sports and he enjoys it too and has had some success at it. So it's like, hey, let's keep following that journey, but I'm going to love you regardless. Like, I don't care whether you play another down of football or not, but how is parental involvement, both in sports and in your life? Just tell me a little bit about your dad's involvement, including sports. And then was he involved? Well, let me just, generally, what's his involvement been like in that?
I feel like a dad's involvement is one of the most important things, like in any young man or lady's life. It goes a long way. The Bible gets more deep into it. I won't go into it, but it's a lot of stuff that goes into it. But my dad has been the best. He supported me through everything. He's never forced me to do anything, which I'm very thankful for. I've been able to make my own decisions for the most part. He's guided me in the right direction.
As he should, yeah.
But I'm super thankful for him. It's been awesome.
That's cool. How involved was he on the youth sports side? And then did that shift going to school ball, or how involved was he on the youth sports side?
He coached me a little bit. Like, he helped. He wasn't always, I don't think he was ever the head coach. He was always just an assistant, just to kind of be there with me and stuff. And it was good. Yeah. But when we got to 6th grade, I think, is when he kind of stopped coaching me.
Kind of shifted. That's kind of what I'm trying to shift out. And I've did head coach, I think 2 years of football and then 1 year of basketball. And both of them were just because there was a need. I was like, I'd rather not. But, and then I've done the assistant here and there, but trying to really fade completely out of that because it's just challenging. But we need, that's the thing that's challenging is you need youth sports is all volunteer run predominantly. Now travel baseball, there's paid coaches and stuff, but predominantly it's volunteer run. So some people are like, oh, you're just coaching your son because of this. I'm like, well, man, I'm not just coaching him. I know all his buddies and I know their names. I'm going to follow their high school journeys for so long. They're going to play with him or play at Decatur or whatever. And so I love that. Obviously I was involved because he was there because I'm not, unless you're paying me, I'm not going to go spend 10 hours of my week away from my family with random kids, So I'm like, people who dog it, I'm like, that's part of it. But also that shift. And I think that's where I hope I'm not over involved. Some dads may be over involved. Can you let your son be coached by other people and be challenged, even when you don't always agree with the decisions too, as a dad or a parent? And so has your dad wrestled with that, or has he kind of just been like, hey, it just is what it is?
I think he knows that our relationship, he's built he's kind of stabilized it. And he knows that I'll come home and tell him about everything and tell him if there's any issues, and he'll help me with the things that I don't see because I'm still young. And so
I feel like that's what you want to get to, is where there's a trust on your end. And I tell him all the time, KJ, I want you to tell me if you're struggling with a coach or with something. Because if you just bury that and keep it inside, you need that safe space that can both challenge you at times if you need to hear the hard things, but also can be there and be like, the other day he said something. And I was like, I actually was frustrated with that a little bit too. But let's talk through that. Like, let's trust God with that. Didn't like the decision either. And there's other times where I'm like, well, actually, KJ, like you're not old enough to understand, but that was the right decision. And so helping form and shape him. And I think that's what's cool to me about as a Christian. Like I say this about like my parents, and, you know, I'm 37 now, so getting older. That relationship, I'm still their son, always will be. But it's shifted and feels almost more like a brother, sister, or brother relationship in Christ, which is really cool. And I've talked to him about that. Like, I hope when he's 25, 30, he still wants to come sit on the back porch and watch a game with me. And we're more almost like brothers or older brothers, mentor type, because obviously I'm going to release him to. And you have to, as part of growing up. The goal in parenting your kid is not for them to always depend on you. It's for them to go, Proverbs talks about arrows sent out into the kingdom. Like I want you to go and do the things that God has for you without me babying you, but I'm always here and always got your back as well.
That's exactly what how my dad is right now. My mom's kind of like, not sad that I'm leaving because she knows it's my dream, but I'm her first. So it's kind of sad that I'm leaving. And my dad's like, yeah, I'm beyond proud of you and happy for you. You're about to go live out your dream, but I'm always here. Like if you need anything. So
absolutely. Love that. That's what we've even talked about. We're, as he's getting older and we got 3 girls behind him, is like, are we even setting ourselves up to be ready to do that well, where we can always be a space you can come back to, but we're also not going to like baby you or hold you back. Like we're going to rejoice in that. And I know for my wife, it'll be harder in the sense of just the physical separation that's gone, and I know it'll be hard for anybody as well, but that's cool. I love that. What are things that, as much as you're comfortable, that were there times your dad, like things you looking back on, you like maybe he struggled with, or he's admitted he struggled with, but then grew in, but then things that he also just done really well, which you've already talked about a lot of the things he's done really well. But
my dad, he's more of like just a straightforward person, and my personality, I'm more like my mom. So I'm more like soft-hearted. Like I get emotional a good bit over certain stuff. Like I'm not just crying all the time, but my dad did a really good job of being able to adapt to his, like I was his first kid. So being able to adapt to being a new dad and learning my heart behind everything and being able to talk to me not the same as he may talk to somebody else.
Yeah, so I love that. I've heard that even about coaching. Like a good coach treats everyone equally fair, but not the same in the sense that what one kid might not like need to hear might be different. Like I know for him, he's probably more similar to you. The way you're describing it is if a coach he can take it if he needs to. He's learned it at this point. But a coach, if they're not careful, could crush him. They don't need to tell him something more than once. He's going to listen probably. But if you treat him like a kid who's maybe stubborn and I need to get in his face, and I think good coaches learn that. And I think parents too, man, like people think, I used to look at people in their mid-30s and like, man, you got life figured out. Like you got a mortgage, you got a job. And now I'm like, we're all faking. I mean, not really, but it's like we have grown and learned. But like, man, I think what made me think of this is you're saying like you being your first for your dad. And it's like, man, I think about taking a newborn home from the hospital at 3 days old with no training. Like there's no manual for parenting and we're learning too. And I love that. I think for me, what I go back to, and I'm still young in this, but sincerity, like kids will know if their parents are like sincere, and you can look back on mistakes I'm sure your dad or mom made, but like, man, I know they were trying. And like, so we have a healthy relationship now versus maybe if there was just no sincerity or it was fake or you felt like you were always in their way versus like, man, we're trying and failing sometimes, but we're in this together. So I love to hear you talk about that. That's cool. What would you say to like a dad like me, or maybe a mom or dad that's listening as we're trying to, especially these kids around his age where it's like competitive. And so it's like real sports and real, but also, man, they're still kind of kids. What advice in like supporting their passions, whether it's sports or not, right? Could be music, drama, could be just, I want to go to Harvard or Yale or do law school. What would you say to parents like in supporting their kids?
I would just say be supportive in whatever they choose to do. Because if you force them to do something, they're not going to love it, and it's going to end up showing in other areas of their life. Eventually, if you let them do what they're supposed to do, they're going to find out what they're really good at. And they're going to not only be happier, but they'll come home to you and tell you how awesome it was, and you'll get to hear all the stories, and they'll become more respectful of you because they'll learn more about you through that, if that makes sense. Because through me, I struggle with like listening to my dad sometimes about sports stuff, but my dad was like a pretty good athlete. So I just don't know. My pride getting in the way. Yeah. But I got to a point where I realized like my dad is the most observant person I've ever met. It's crazy. Like I think one time he told me, like, I think it was at a baseball game when I was in a tournament when I was little or something, but like told me what I was thinking, and like I was like, there's no shot he knows that. Like, why does he know that? It's crazy. He was like, yeah, you gotta open your eyes, see the ball, hit the ball, stuff like that. And then he started telling, like, how do you know I was thinking that? Like, it's crazy. So it gets to a point where you gain a respect for your parents if you allow your children to do what they love. So
yeah. I heard someone say this. I think it was either golf or baseball. I can't remember because I've saw two different clips and I think I've mixed them together in my head. But it was basically the idea of if your kids fall in love with something, they're going to work to get good at it. But if you force them to just be good at it, they might or might not love it, and eventually they could burn out. And not that sports is the end game, but whatever. I mean, I do believe that God has created each of us with different giftings and different abilities and different desires and passions. And obviously those can become unhealthy if they become idols in our life or they become our identity, but used as a good gift is like, there's nothing better than when you're like, man, God created me to do this and I'm doing this. I've worked at it. I'm doing it at a level that I enjoy and can do it. I think that's just like supporting your kids, because we're kind of at that age where he's kind of identified some things like that, and those could shift and change. But largely, I think it will be somewhat in the vein of sports. But then, our girls were trying to figure some of that out. Like some of them had dabbled in sports and were like, I don't know, we'll see kind of what that is. So, and it's hard, man, to parents. I just encourage parents. Like it's hard. Like it's, especially with multiple kids, you're like, it's not that easy. And so trust God's plan in that. Like you're going to have ups and downs and you're going to make mistakes, but like ultimately God's the ultimate parent who is perfect and doesn't fail. And like, we're just there to point to him ultimately. And so that's good news for us, and should encourage us to continue just moving forward, even when we do fail. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, let's see. This is kind of random, but KJ's an older brother. You're an older brother. What would you say to him about being an older brother? Any advice on that front?
Not only we're older brothers, but we both have is little sisters. So
that's true.
They look up to you, even though they're not a boy in sports. Like neither of my sister are in any ball sports. They both like cheerleading and tumbling. And so I would just say be the most supportive of them that you can, and also protective, because other boys are in this world, and there's some weird dudes out there. They're going to eventually one day, your sister's going to like a boy, and she's going to attract to someone that it's not 100%, but most of the time girls like guys that are like their dad and like their brother, if their brother and their dad is a good role model in their life. So I would just say be the best role model to them that you can, and be nice to them, because you're not going to live with them forever. Like I'm about to move away, and I've lived with them my whole life. So
yeah, and that's what I've always, I have two sisters, one older, one younger, and that's what it's like the protection piece. Like you've like God gives you power, and whether that comes through you're just older, or maybe you have more physical strength, or could be, you could even get into the workplace. You have the power of being a boss, or as a pastor, you have a sense of authority. And it's like, are you using that to serve self or serve others? And are you using that to protect or harm? And so like, do I use my voice to, even if it's awkward sometimes, to speak up for something or speak up for somebody, or am I going to use it to make fun of somebody or whatever? And that comes in line with like not only your your sisters, but your friends, whatever around you. And so that's which I think he does a pretty good job of that largely. And I always enjoy when there's times like, oh yeah, I wish I had a brother to go, out in the yard to throw the football with or whatever. And it's helped as the girls have gotten older because they can go hit the volleyball. They can kind of do some stuff or shoot a little bit of basketball, but also, getting out in the yard. And I'm always encouraged as a father when I see him like meet them on their level, like, and play a game that maybe he's like nerfing himself. So he's not dominating. Not that it's wrong for them to learn how to lose too. And that he's always got to do that because I'm still going to beat you in basketball because I don't know how many more years I have left of that. So I'm not going to nerf myself. Yeah. But I, like when he does that with his sisters and out there playing kickball or whatever, it's like, man, it's not all about winning, competing all the time. Like be a good older brother and get out there. So, how many sisters do you have? Two.
Sisters.
What are their ages?
17 and 11.
Okay. Are they both Austin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So is your sister going into her senior year?
Yeah, she'll be a senior. She's a 2-time state champ and a national champ. So
Austin's got cheerleading.
They're good. Yeah. They got a really good coach and good athletes. So
I follow that a little bit just from a distance. So that's cool to hear. Well, do you have any like questions or things you've thought of as we've been sitting here?
No. You basically answered everything I was going to ask. I mean, asked everything out that I was going to ask.
Cool. Do you have any questions for us?
No. I don't think so.
Cool. I did ask your dad if it was okay if he sent you something that I could read. And he said, he was straight up, he said, there's nothing that I haven't told him myself, but this is what he said. So, Jaxon, you are an honorable man. You are a man of great influence. You really are wise beyond your years. Your voice is extremely powerful in the earth, and more young fellas need to hear it. You honor your parents, you care for and protect your sisters, and you love people well. You work your butt off for the things you know God has called you to do, and you pour your entire self into the right relationships. You are more than a great athlete. You are a great man, and the world needs more great men like you. There are many young men following behind you. Put them on your shoulders and show them what's possible. Keep blazing the trail. HGA. So that was encouraging for me to read, and just to continue to encourage you. Like, I know a lot of these, even KJ's like, sometimes like being on camera, he gets a little bit like nervous, but largely he's like telling his friends, oh, we're getting to interview Jaxon Potter, and hearing a lot of like the little elementary kids, talk about it, and it's kids you won't even know, but they know you. And, to continue to steward that like well. And I think you have, just even from a distance, just like hearing a part of the culture you've helped create. Like, it's so cool for me as a father. I want my son to have other young men to look to, just like whether it's a coach senior for you, like people that are kind of in between, like my age and then my kid's age, like that's where you fall. Like there's other, couple guys, 25, 26 that are living overseas, taking the gospel to people. And I love that my son knows them and knows their names and gets to see them. And same like in the sports world and journey. And so it means a lot to me that he's got people, kind of blazing that trail to say, hey, like if this is what you want to do, like you can go do it, and you can do it in the right way. Because there are people that don't always do it the right way. And so we love, like we plan to be, in the area at Austin, and so that's kind of like you said, that program path, that's what we're looking at, trying to do it the right way. And so thank you for your time and being on here. I will link your socials, and so go follow. What do you have social?
Instagram. I have X, but I mainly just use it for recruiting, but follow me if you want to.
Instagram is where it's at. So we'll link your social handles in the bio. And thanks for your time. Thanks for being on here. We're excited to follow your journey. We'll definitely be watching. We've got to do that with Quincy Crittenden, just from a distance, following his journey there at Samford. And just, it's so cool to watch. And I love that he gets to see that and experience that. And it's I'll be always like, hey, did you see Quincy had this game? Or did you see this happen? And you watch his eyes light up when it's someone he actually has met and knows their story. Yeah, knows their journey. And it helps you believe you can do it because you've sat and talked with them. Sometimes we can make like athletes out to be like they're, you know, perfect or they don't fail or whatever. And it's like, man, when you get to sit and talk with them and say, like, man, I can do that too. Like whatever journey I want to take. So cool. You got anything else? All right. Thanks for being here, bro.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely.